You missed a new episode, you can be up for this. Our first guest of ours is one of the biggest helping hoods at Sweet Apple Acres. He doesn't have much to say, but he always has a lot on his mind. Give it over Big Macintosh himself, Mr. Brony!
Okay.
I've never been a waiter in my life. Hi. How's everybody? Nice to see you all.
Welcome to day 2 of the Gala. You been enjoying yourself so far?
I have been. How about you?
Dandy, actually. It's actually been really nice having you at this new venue here.
Dandy. It's a dandy venue. I didn't realize it was a new venue.
Oh yeah, we used to do it at the Embassy Suites over in Tampa, but we switched to this one, and there's actually elbow room. And breathing room, but that doesn't matter too.
Breathing room. Is anybody here at the last one? Do you agree that there's more elbow and breathing room?
Yeah.
Is it? Is it better? Better? You like it better here? About the same. For you. Well, you speak for the group.
Now,
I like it. I think it's lovely.
Now, I think a lot of us know that you also play Sunil, the Indian mongoose from Littlest Pet Shop.
Yes, indeed, I play Sunil from Littlest Pet Shop.
Now, not only does he have the accent, but he also tends to scream rather high. Is it rather hard to pull off that voice? Nope. So I take it, but the accent was still easy for you then?
Well, you know, the accent is, when we first started doing it, they wanted perhaps a slight Indian accent was what was in the breakdown. And I'd just come back fairly recently before that audition from Uganda, where I was working as a volunteer for an acting school in Kampala. And they were bringing together various people from different disciplines in the filmmaking industry from various different places. So there were some folks from New York, folks from LA, folks from Bombay, and I was working with a couple of guys, one of whom was a camera guy from Slumdog Millionaire, one of whom was a sound guy that works really regularly in Bombay. And the sound guy and I, Balon, we became quite close. We enjoyed each other's company very much. And you know, Balon, he was a very soft-spoken guy most of the time, spoke in sort of his pocket. He wasn't very heavy with the accent at all, and except then sometimes he would get upset and it would come out a lot harder, you know? And so what they wanted from the cartoon at first was something a little softer, more like this, you know, that you could barely hear sometimes, you know? But the problem is that in a cartoon you're always doing those really high tension moments, and so everything always comes out, and it becomes this very kind of almost you know, stereotypical thing, which I was trying to avoid in general because I recognize that I am a white guy, and but we never. I think my favorite story about him actually is there was an animator, East Indian origin, working the show, and I guess I've only heard this story anachronistically, so I don't really know for sure. But I heard that they were talking about my accent while working, and somebody was saying how great it was, the character's so good, the accent's so good, and the animator I'm speaking of said, white guy. So, I don't know.
Now, seeing how your character doesn't say all that much, are you surprised he actually has such a following?
I was at first, yeah, because you know, it was mostly just yup and nope at first, and I was quite surprised that so many people resonated with that. But I liked that ultimately because I sort of felt like what went on early was that people sort of filled the gaps in with him and let him be what they wanted him to be or what they needed him to be, and I really liked that actually about him, that he is meaningful for people and representative for people of what it is that they need, and I kind of like that about the fan reaction, but I also think that's part of his character in a way too. So
yeah, I remember in the interview that we conducted with you that you always kind of played the character as if he had wisdom.
yeah.
And when you said that, it actually made me think about the character a bit differently. Just how it gives ponies a chance to think about what they just said to you.
Yeah.
And think about that next time you see Big Macintosh.
That was in the original breakdown though for him. It was that I know Lauren Faust wanted to have him just say yup and no, and she liked that joke, but I think Hasbro was a bit worried that it would become stale. So in the breakdown, they did talk about how he was, you know, the wise older brother who didn't feel the need to speak, as opposed to the dopey older brother who didn't know nothing, you know. And I think his voice would be more and better if he were dopey, you know. And I just felt like I always thought he wasn't dumb. I always thought he was just, you know, really observant and didn't feel he needed to add anything unnecessarily.
Yeah, like he only speaks when it's necessary.
Right.
Now, you were also in a movie called Mystery of the Grand Canyon.
No, Lost Treasure. Lost Treasure of the Grand Canyon.
And according to what I found out, that you and some of the other castmates want to get together and start MST3K.
Oh yeah, that's right.
What is it about this movie that's worth riffing on? And for those of you that don't know, MST3K is Mystery Science Theater 3000, where they would play old movies and just do a comedy commentary track.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the kind of movie that lends itself very well to that kind of commentary track, because it's starring Michael Shanks of Stargate and Shannon Doherty, and several other friends of mine. It takes place in 1909 about a group of explorers who find behind the Grand Canyon wall a primitive Aztec culture worshipping the god Quetzalcoatl who eats humans. So it lends itself fairly well to a lot of comedy. It was done with almost no money, and even shooting. We shot outside near a place called Ashcroft in British Columbia for quite some time on the canyon of the Thompson River, which sort of looks like it. You know, if you frame out a lot of it, it looks like it could be the Grand Canyon. It's much smaller. We shot outside in tick season and for 2 weeks, and we kept thinking, you know, they kept saying we're going to cut in the third week, we're going to do all our interiors, we're going to be in the studio, and by the end of 2 weeks outside in cold water and everything else, we were all looking forward to being in the studio. The studio, it turns out, was an abandoned barn with holes in the ceiling right next to the Trans-Canada Highway. You hear the trucks going by every 5 minutes, and it was sort of no better. It was dusty and horrible in there too. So it was just this, adventure fun camp of an experience, and I think the film itself it's bad. Yeah, but it's fun. It's fun bad.
All right, let's go ahead and open the floor for you guys. If you have a question, just raise your hoof, and I'll be right over there with a microphone. Now let's go to you. Yeah, sure, the best princess? You go first. All right, go ahead, Nancy.
When you're recording My Little Pony, do you have shorter days compared to all the other actors for it because of Big Mac's vast vocabulary?
Occasionally, but for the most part, no. For the most part, I don't get paid for the words I say. I get paid for my time, right? So it doesn't matter what I have to say necessarily. I get a different rate if I have more than a certain number of lines than I do if I have fewer than a certain number of lines. But in either case, I have a 4-hour call, so I show up and I'm there for 4 hours if they want me for 4 hours.
All right.
Yeah, I know that you was in the movie Scooby-Doo 2.
I was in Scooby-Doo 2.
Can you see that famous line?
See if I can remember it. I played, in case anyone is unfamiliar with Scooby-Doo 2, Monsters Unleashed, I played a large role called Daphne's Tattooed Fan number 2. If you're familiar with it, you'll know at the beginning of the film, Scoob and the gang pull up in front of some museum or something and walk up the steps through the crowd, and each of the characters has a fan that speaks to them and freaks out over them. My friend Chris Gauthier and I we went to this audition, both of us, to get the job of Daphne's Tattooed Fan, and they couldn't decide between us, so they decided to cast both of us, which was very generous of them. So they had us both shave ourselves from the waist up, and had a tattoo artist come in and paint Sarah Michelle Gellar's face on our chests, and And the gag is that she comes up in front of us, and we whip our t-shirts up and say, it was, the first few takes was just this sort of half improv garbage of us just going, Daphne, hey look, we got tattoos, blah, blah, blah. But there was actually a written line, and you know, they did 2 or 3 takes, and the director, Roger Gosnell, said, you know, that's good, I guess let's move on. Unless there's anything else you guys want to do. And I turned to Chris and said, let's do it in unison. So we worked it out. So the 2 of us would, yeah, we have one more thing, and they rolled on it without asking us what it was. They just said, okay, well, all right, roll, action. We whipped our shirts up, and exactly together we said, Daphne, 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 we got you tattooed on our chests, look! And they went, oh, that's great. So they pushed in, and they did a bunch of other takes on it, and it ended up sort of mishmashed into the film, but that was what we did.
You saw the tattoo?
Yeah, I do not have the tattoo because it was just makeup and my hair's grown back. But we're also near the end. When everything kind of gets solved, we do a chest bump, and then there's a dance featuring Ruben Studdard from American Idol, and we had to learn how to dance. So if you go back and you watch this film, I'm in like 3 seconds at the beginning and a minute at the end. And I had 4 days on set to do that job because it was Hollywood.
Alright, here we go.
What's your reaction when your Princess Big Mac, what was your reaction when Princess Big Mac finally appeared in the show?
Oh, I was delighted. I was absolutely delighted. I thought that was just great. I was absolutely thrilled.
So in the Pinky Apple Pie episode, you sing,
Apples forever.
yes. Did you ever wish that you could sing more in the show?
Yep.
Are there any roles in particular that you regret taking?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know if there's any I regret taking necessarily because there's usually some reason, you know, at the level that I'm at, I pretty much need to work. If they want to hire me, I need to take the job because I pay bills. So, you know, it's pretty journeyman actor. So you kind of have to take the jobs, but there have been some experiences that were less than thrilling and less than pleasant. I did an episode of The Flash last year that got cut on set just because the director had his idea about how it had to go, and it went from like 3 pages with an arrow in my leg to you know, a shivering, scared line, and that was that, you know. Basically what I ended up with. But it just was like this attrition, or the opposite of, and where it just sort of disappeared on me, and nobody, sort of alone, not knowing what was happening, not knowing if I was doing a good job or a bad job, and nobody talking to me about it at all, and I just sort of disappeared, and it was really unpleasant. But I ended up on screen, so there you go, and I got paid quite well, so there you go, and you know. So I don't know if I regret it exactly, but I certainly didn't have a good time.
Alright, Nadia.
What do you like most about being on it, My Little Pony?
It's this. It's you guys, 100%.
Alright, we got another one over here. You get me a workout too, by the way.
Good.
You were Doctor Who on the 100th episode, right?
Yes.
How does that feel?
Oh, great. So great. I'm a huge Whovian, so I love that opportunity. Absolutely.
What were your opinions on Cousin Apple Orchard in Brotherhood Social?
Oh yeah, Orchard Blossom. I loved that so much. I think that's one of the best written episodes in the series. I really do. I think Dave Polsky did a great job of that episode, and I think it means something to me, and I thought the opportunity to do Orchard Blossom was just tremendous. Great fun.
In the episodes where you only had like a couple lines, like with a yup or a no, are there like times where you're like spending, is it really, really short, or like you
have to do takes and takes until you get the right one?
They usually don't want to waste more than a few takes on any line in the show. You know, sometimes they do need to stop and get it right and you end up on take 10 or whatever, but for the most part they don't do more than 4, I would say. Usually it's 2. Usually you get 2 passes at a scene and that's that. With the yups, I mean, this goes back to your question earlier, if it's just one yup, sometimes they will just jump ahead and say, okay, let's just get you out of the way and you can go home. Because you're on line 206 and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and here you are. And you just kind of, you'd be sitting here for 2 hours before you do anything. And so then they'll just bring me in and I just by myself go, yup, yup, yup. And then Terry Klassen, the voice director, will say, can you, do you need a voice reference? Because it's just not, and then he'll let me go because he's like that.
Alright, so, are there any big similarities between you as a person and Big Mac as a character?
I think so. I think that's necessarily true of any part you get. I think that the reason you get it is because there's something that is true between you and the character that the producers see. So I don't necessarily know if I know what it is, but because certainly I talk a lot more than he does. But I think there is I think there's a quiet consideration with him, and I think I do that too. So I think maybe that's I put that into it, whether or not everybody sees it.
In your major speaking line and Brotherhood Social as Cousin Orchard Blossom right near the end,
Yeah.
how hard was it for you to stay in your Big Mac voice throughout that segment?
For the monologue at the end with Apple Bloom? Not hard. That again, this goes back to the writing, I think, and Dave Polsky's excellent work with it, because I feel like it was exactly what he needed to say. There was no rambling to it. It was to the point and precise, and it was, I mean, I wanted to get it right, so I worked hard on it ahead of time to make sure that it would come out properly too, but it was a beautiful monologue, beautiful moment, and it was a necessary moment for the character.
I think a lot of fans can agree that was a great moment for Big Macintosh.
I hope so. Thank you.
Yeah, would you guys agree?
I'm glad you did, because I really wanted you guys to like that, so thanks.
I think it was quite the, I don't want to say tearjerker, but heart hitter, I guess you could say.
Yeah. I've had a few people talk to me about it and say that somebody spoke to me just at this convention about it and said that that's the episode that they chose to show their friend who hadn't seen any of my work.
Oh, that was one of our seminars, Brony Buck.
Yeah, and the friend got to that monologue and, you know, this sort of, I don't know if I'm like My Little Pony, whatever type of guy who, you know, got to that moment and just went, I think that was great.
All right, here we go.
What do you like to do for fun?
Oh, well, it's a tough question for me because I always acted for fun, and so then I started getting paid to do what I do for fun. But other than that, I have a couple instruments I like to play, and I like to go to the beach and get in the water and hang out with my kid. Yeah.
Do you ever find yourself like reacting to any of the characters in My Little Pony daily? Like, do you say like, "Oh wow, like so Rainbow Dash right then," or whenever somebody asks you a yes or no question, you're like, "Yup."
Occasionally the yuck comes out, but not really for anything else. No.
Do you read any of the fan fiction, or you try to stay out of things that aren't canon in the show?
I mostly try to stay out of it, especially when it comes to shipping and stuff.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't really want to have an opinion about it, so I don't engage with it.
A lot of actors have a thing where when they watch clips and stuff of their performances, they feel very odd about it. Do you feel that time to time watching episodes? Or-
No, for me, watching your performance is a necessary part of your growth as an artist. You have to develop, as far as I'm concerned, you have to develop a sense of objectivity around your own performance. So you have to get over that awkward feeling of, oh God, that's what I look like, that's what I sound like, because that's just you being insecure and subjective about yourself. But you have to be able to look at it or listen to it and say, what did I do there that worked? What did I do there that didn't work? Is there a way that I, on my own, can make a change to improve? Because you are largely alone as a developing artist when you're an actor, because you get notes in the session, but there's nobody really there to coach you along. You just have to do that on your own.
Do you have any tips for aspiring VAs, like voice actors?
Well, yes, attend my class tomorrow afternoon at 3, absolutely. Besides that, though, I think if you're an aspiring voice actor, the thing to realize and remember is that the operative word is actor, not voice. So become an actor, and if you are lucky, you will end up as a voice actor, if that's what you want. You'll choose to drive that way, but you need to be an actor. You need to be able to break a scene down and understand the motivations that drive actors and make scenes come alive.
Yeah, me personally, I've actually been taking acting classes at the Burton Reynolds Institute of Film and Theater, and they taught us the same thing. It's not just throwing up a goofy voice, you still have to act.
Yeah. Your character still needs to know what it wants, and it needs to know how to get it, or try.
Yeah, I've even seen voice actors actually make similar body movements while they're in character, as if, that's how the character would act.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've seen that a lot.
That's one of the most freeing things about voice acting, actually, that I really enjoy, is that you don't need to contain it in the eyes like you do on film. And you don't need to be as precise as you do on the stage. In voice, your body gets to do whatever it wants as long as it's not making noise, right? Because as long as the voice comes out right, and so you end up. It's really fun watching voice actors work because they're goofy. Everybody has their different stance. Like Andrew Francis kind of attacks the microphone like this. It doesn't work like that. And Brian Brony is this guy. He does this a lot. It's really funny to watch people do their strange things. I'm sure I do something weird too, but I never really pay attention to myself.
So when you were a kid, were there any cartoons or movies that influenced you?
Oh, sure. I was a huge Looney Tunes guy. Mel Blanc really influenced me, and then later discovering that the Simpsons main actors all did all the different voices and all that stuff. Ren and Stimpy.
Do you get a lot of fan mail or gifts from fans of the fandom, and what do you do with them?
It comes in waves, weirdly. Sometimes I get a lot, sometimes I get nothing. I keep things, of course, because it's flattering as hell, so. Pardon, heck.
I just want to know from the particular episode, the Hearts and Hooves episode, if there are any funny memories when all of your lines were Smoothie-Poo and stuff like that.
Well, all I know is the way the studio was oriented where I was standing, I could really only see Nicole Oliver standing opposite me. But she was, the two of us are pros, so we're trying our best not to, but we're laughing our guts out because we make each other laugh anyway, and we're making stupid faces at each other and all this stuff. She was just telling me this yesterday, which I didn't know until yesterday, that she can see past me into the booth, and she could see all the engineer and the directors and everything just killing themselves, and so that was making it harder for her, making her laugh even more, which was making me laugh even more. So it was this sort of spiral thing. I remember this moment where we had to sort of stop and go, okay, seriously, let's do it.
Can you give us a Schmoopy-Doo?
Schmoopy-Doo!
I remember hearing something about Mr. Corlett, James Ian Corlett, his 75% rule.
Oh yeah.
So what are your thoughts about that?
I'll tell everybody what the rule is, but I'll say that I think there's a certain amount of validity to it, yeah. Ian's rule is that you never give more than 75%. And that's that sounds like a cheat, because there is a temptation, especially among novices, new people, to just get out there and give 100%. But if you've got a 4-hour session where you are doing a lot of shouting, and particularly we used to do a lot more anime and stuff in Vancouver than we do now, which is a lot of, you know, I remember being on Inuyasha and doing like Hair Demon, you know, and so that's like for 4 hours, right? And if you go 100% take 1, that's hard on your throat. And if you're still going 100% take 10, that's even harder. By hour 3, you've got no voice. So Ian's rule is go 75%. Start at 75. Because it leaves you a space to go. And you know, a lot of the time too, you don't really get a chance to see the script ahead of time. So you start going at the beginning, and then there's a moment 3/4 of the way through the episode where, okay, now we really scream. And you have to up it. You have to leave yourself some room to go big, because sometimes that's what they want. And I think so that's where I think there's validity to it. But the other side of that is, Ian is, honest to goodness, one of the best around. He's really good, so he can afford to do that. It takes a lot of the rest of us a lot more time to navigate what comes very naturally to Ian. So that rule works very well for him, not so well for me, because I can't really gauge what 75 is. I guess like sometimes come in at 50 if I try to do that, and that's not good enough. So I think I live at 80 most of the time, 85.
Hi, I know you're trying to avoid the shipping and all, but who do you think is better for Big Mac? Cheerleading, Fluttershy, or Marble?
I just won't answer that. Yeah.
Are there episodes you wish you had been written into that you were such a fan of? You're like, well, why wasn't Big Mac in that? I would have loved
Every one of them. And a few episodes of Littlest Pet Shop. You should have been in them too. Hi.
What is the nicest thing Brony has ever said or done to you?
There have been so many of those experiences, but I think, and it's an experience I have had more than once, and I've had all the way back to the very first convention I ever went to. It's when a parent of someone who is on the spectrum, who, from the parent's perspective, has always been quiet or locked in or unable to communicate socially, comes to one of these conventions and it all of a sudden opens them up because the show has helped them so much. And this parent is usually in tears in front of me and saying thank you. And it's great. It's amazing. Thank you.
A friend of mine actually just tweeted me a question. He says, what team are you in Pokemon Go?
Blue.
Speaking of blue, if there was one franchise you could get into without any question from the owners and such, what franchise would you love to act in?
Doctor Who.
Back over there? Okay.
Run! Clue.
Okay, so during the panel answer for Kelly, she told us a story about how during one of her conventions, someone just gave her like a fish, like a fish plus plush to sign. So I was wondering, what's one of the strangest or coolest things you've ever had to sign?
Wow, I signed like the back of somebody's iPhone 5 like the day after it came out. I signed the inside of a bus. I've signed many strange things. I've signed guitars. Somebody made a go-kart. And I signed that. Yeah.
On the Slice of Life episode where you played Dr. Who's,
Yeah.
did the producers request you to play the voice, or did you have to audition for it?
That was a rare case. They actually just came to me for it and requested me. Normally I audition for things, but they asked for me to do it. I told the story yesterday too. They asked for me to do it, and they said, one thing though, David Tennant is in town right now, filming something, and we are trying to get him to come in and do this, but we don't know if we can. So we need to record the episode, so would you please come in and do it? Just know that it might not go to air with you, we don't know. And so I thought, I went home and watched a couple David Tennant episodes again, because I thought, if my only competition, thanks, is David Tennant, I better try and sound as much like him as I can. And I'm not really an imitator as a voice actor, I'm a character guy more. So I tried my best to be David Tennant. And I don't know why they didn't get him. I don't know if it was him, I don't know if it was them, I don't know what happened with that. But it ended up being me. Maybe they were just happy enough with what I did that they thought that was cheaper.
Who do you think is the most apple to the core apple?
Big Mac. Probably Applejack, actually. To be honest with you, probably Applejack.
Who is a character that Big Mac has not interacted with yet in the show that you would love to see an interaction with?
Dr. Hoops. Don't you think?
I remember seeing an episode of Littlest Pet Shop, the Halloween episode, where Blythe was a cowgirl and writing a Applejack.
Yeah.
What was your reaction to that?
I remember tweeting, I put a screenshot up on my Twitter and said, LPS for the win. In case you don't know, Ashley Ball, who plays Applejack, also played Blythe on Littlest Pet Shop, so I thought it was quite funny to have her character dressed up as Applejack in LPS.
Anyway, two-parter.
Sure.
What and MLP, when you saw, did you watch the episode where Discord takes off on Blythe's scooter? What did you think about that?
Oh, I don't think I knew about that.
I didn't even know about that. I got liver it now.
Yeah, clever cause.
And also, what would you think about my Big Mac impression?
Yep.
No. Yup. No. Do it again. Do it again.
Yep.
No. Maybe. Pretty good.
Have you ever done two characters talking to each other, and then if you have, was it like kind of surreal?
It's totally surreal, yeah, to do that. The experience that comes to mind for me, which you can actually Google, if you Google Sunil the Screams, you should get like it's like a minute and a half or 2 minutes of Sunil on Littlest Pet Shop and a character called Weber the Spider. Sunil apparently does not like spiders. And so he just screams they scream at each other because Sunil startles Weber and then Sunil is terrified of Weber. But I'm both of them. So it's wild because it's just me screaming at myself. It's bizarre.
Do you actually go back and forth between the characters, or do you record them one at a time?
Usually you'll start with a take where you go back and forth, and then on the second pass you'll do them one at a time.
When they first showed you the script for the Brotherhood Social episode, what was your take on that and how did you react?
I thought it was great. I thought it was absolutely great. I'll talk about this at length if you let me, because I just think it was a brilliant episode, and I think that Dave Polsky's drive with it was to give Big Macintosh an identity which gave him freedom and freedom to talk, which he would normally feel awkward about. And I think that's a brilliant analog for a lot of the experiences that I think happen in this fandom, and I think a lot of the experiences that are happening in the zeitgeist overall. So I think that was a brilliant choice ultimately. I think it was really good. Because I do think that I love that the choice was to let everybody in town know it was him and accept it. We just accept, and I think that's how we ought to be.
I think one of the more fascinating things about that episode, especially the monologue, was finding out that
Big Mac kind of used to be the hero of the family, but now he's kind of been cast aside. It's now AJ, and he misses that.
Mm-hmm.
Do you ever cosplay as any of your characters?
I have done. I did. I cosplayed as Princess Big Mac at BabsCon.
Enter a costume contest?
I know. I just did it. It really is. It was kind of a joke because at Canterlot Gardens in Cleveland, Tara Strong came out late to the voice panel cosplaying as Twilight, and to Wild Falls, of course. And so when they came to me at BabsCon, they sent me a message saying, would you be interested in cosplaying as Princess Big Mac? And one of my stipulations was, only if it's on a panel with Tara Strong, and only if I can enter after her. And they agreed to that. And so it's online as well. If you look up, Peter New, Princess Big Mac, BabsCon, you'll find it. And it's pretty goofy.
Yeah, did they actually have you come out to a song that you personally had a part in?
Well, it was the Princess Big Mac, the Princess Twilight cometh.
Yeah.
Right, but I recorded myself saying Big Mac. So whenever the word Twilight comes along in the song, they just put me going Big Mac over top. Yeah.
I've seen the video. It's worth checking out. Trust me.
Pretty funny.
Alright, what has been your favorite role in anything ever? It can be outside of MLB or it can just be MLB, whatever you prefer to answer.
I think probably my favorite experience ever, which I guess counts, is playing stuttering paramedic in Terry Gilliam's movie, The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Because Gilliam and Monty Python both were huge influences for me growing up. Gilliam's movies, Time Bandits in Brazil and The Adventures of Barry Munchausen were all hugely influential for me. And he's the only person I ever said to my on-camera agent, if Terry Gilliam ever comes to Vancouver to make a movie, I don't care what it is, I want to be in it. So when that happened, and I got one day on set with Terry Gilliam, I spent the whole, usually you're in your trailer, you come to set when it's time for you to do your scene. And I just sat in a chair in the back and watched the whole day happen because it was just great. It was great. Plus I got to stutter on camera. It was like, straight out of a fish called Wanda for me. It was like, whatever, it was everything.
Have you ever voice acted in any video game? And if so, what's the difference between animation?
I have voice acted in Warhammer and in Need for Speed, Hot Pursuit and things like that. The difference usually is that, in animation you're following a narrative, so there's this structure of story that you get to follow that makes it easier to play because you start with, like stuff we were talking about yesterday, start with what you want and then you follow that through the scene. But in video games it's just a list of lines and they just say, okay, now do your character, do a short grunt, do a medium grunt, do a long grunt, do a happy grunt, do a sad grunt, do a short laugh, a long laugh.
Nicole actually had me do that on stage for her the first day of the gala.
It's so exhausting. Video games are so exhausting. And then, you have your occasional line here and there, but it's, they'll get you to do. I remember when doing Need for Speed, I was the cop, in the dispatch office or whatever, and it was like, they give you this list of it's this vertical list of the word dispatch, and then different numbers ahead of the word dispatch. And so you end up going 27 dispatch, 32 dispatch, 49 dispatch, 57 dispatch. You're just recording these lines like this over and over again, and you get halfway down the page and you're like, am I saying any words correctly? Or does dispatch, is that a word? You completely lose it. It's really hard.
How do you do your voice for Big Mac?
How do I do it? I go down and I let my chest resonate a bit more, open my throat wide, and my voice goes deep. And I put on a little accent. And it sounds like this. Yep. Well.
Yeah, I remember you saying it once at a panel that you
thought his voice should be kind of slow and drawn, I believe.
Yeah, I mean that was the breakdown when I did the audition in the first place. Was they wanted him to be this slow talking, pony with hidden wisdom, and then the trick with him was always if you make it too slow, it gets boring to animate. But if you make it too fast, it loses that sense of southern wisdom that they wanted. That kind of farm-wise. I don't even think about it too deep to understand it. I don't think about it too deep to understand it. It doesn't sound the same. It doesn't have the same quality. So you got to go slow enough, but then not too slow, which is weird.
Did you actually study the Southern accent before you auditioned?
No, I have an ear. I have an ear for him. I can just pick him up like crazy.
Could you list your thoughts on all the doctors from least favorite to favorite?
All of them, or just the most recent ones?
All of them.
No, I'm not going to go all the way back to the 70s. I like Tom Baker a lot. I like John Petrie a lot. My favorite of the most recent ones, I need to watch the most recent Doctor again.
Peter Capaldi?
Yeah, I ultimately think of the I don't know. I think ultimately it's Eccleston for me. Although I do miss a sense of humor with Eccleston. I like Matt Smith's sense of humor a lot. But I feel like Matt Smith maybe, I don't know, it's tough, it's hard. It's hard, they're all good.
Yeah, personally, I feel like we didn't get much of a chance to know his doctor, because he was only around for one season.
I know, it was. But it's Chris Eccleston himself, I think, not having much of a sense of humor. And I feel like the doctor is part clown and part villain, in a way. And Eccleston had the gravitas to pull off that whole, he's the only one of the doctors, probably any time, who's really had the gravitas to be able to say, I lost my whole world and I know the whole universe and I can see into the bowels of time and it's horrible and wonderful all at the same time. And you believe it. You believe it absolutely unquestioningly because he's that good. But he doesn't do the comedy of it as well. He's not quite as goofball. And I like that aspect of the Doctor as well, so I don't know, it's tough.
Which big blood there could beat up the big blood there? Shy, evening of armor, or Big Mac?
Big Mac. Big Mac wins.
Here we go.
I was wondering if you could say a little bit more about this concept you were saying about shipping. You don't like the fan-based ones, but like the Cakes, they're clearly in a relationship, or Cranky and Matilda.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, for me it comes down to the stuff that's written in the show is the stuff that I'm working with, right? It's this, if they write an episode where Cheerily and Big Mac get married, right, in effect, then I will support that because that will be the reality. Because I'm dealing in the realities that, the business realities of the production of the show. So if I start to favor one thing or another, then if I, for instance, favor the Cheerily ship and then he marries Marble Pie, say, then all of a sudden I'm disappointed with the episode. And I can't really afford to do that.
Who's best princess other than Princess Big Mac?
No princess is better.
And do princesses dream a magic sheet? What was your reaction when you saw Big Mac flying across the screen, shooting the muffins with...
Perfect. It was perfect. I love the Sailor Moon transformation. I love everything about it is great. They did a great job of it.
Me personally, my favorite part of that little transformation sequence is you're laying off the E's as if you're about to say, yeah, but nope, it goes, woo! And then you also let off a pretty good, as you're doing like a drive-by.
Yeah.
Don't leave me hanging here, okay? Okay. No,
not me.
oh, no one, never mind.
Only 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
So everybody asked this question.
All right.
Team Blue or what?
Team Blue.
Team Blue.
If you were to drop the odd contention, like Death Island, which of your voice actor co-workers would you take with you
Who would I take with me to a desert island? Which voice actor co-worker? How long? Am I trapped there till the end of time, till I die, or is it like for a week?
Like up to a month.
Up to a month.
You'll be rescued before you die.
If it's a month, if it's just a month, I think I'll take, no, I couldn't do that. I'll take Nicole. I'll take Nicole Oliver with me. Probably because I think she'll figure out a way to get off the island before a month is up. And she'll know where all the best restaurants are, too.
All right, last one.
So what was it like in the Hearts and Home State episode, Schmoopy doing with Nicole Oliver?
Great and hilarious. It was really, really funny. Yeah.
All right, well, let's thank Peter for joining us today here at the Great Brony Gala. Woo! He's going to be heading upstairs for his autograph signing. You guys want to get his autograph?
Yeah, I'm doing autographs basically for 2 hours, starting right now. There's also this photo session thing. If you guys want a photo, that's
That's
fine.
over here on the ground floor. Autographs are on the second.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Come on out. I'd love to talk to you in person. Come on over.
All right, guys. Why don't you go ahead and clear up? We got our next guest coming in. Like I said, if you want his autograph, head upstairs to the autograph room.